Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about this. This is the Sony PSX. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, you're probably thinking a lot of different things. That's not a Sony PSX. Didn't you already do a video about this? Who are you? Why are you such a nerd? What is all this crap? There's a lot of thoughts that could be going through one's head. But if you thought, yes, you did a video on this, you are right. This is kind of a part 2 to my rare variants video on this exact piece of hardware. And I never really thought we'd be revisiting it, except there's been a major change. This unit now kind of works. And I thought, that probably won't last very long, so let's go ahead and do a video about it where I can show you guys kind of what it's like to have a somewhat functional PSX. So if you didn't see that first video, here's kind of the cliff notes of the story of this particular device. Yes, this is the PSX. When people hear that, they typically think, oh, the original PlayStation. But the original PlayStation was never really called that, it's just fans decided to call it that retroactively. But Sony really did release something called the PSX, and it's this behemoth. Now, the really strange thing about this particular device is this only came out in Japan, and it is the only standalone PlayStation console not developed by Sony's gaming division. Yes, I know there was a PS2 with a TV built into it in Europe, and that probably was developed by their TV division, but that wasn't a standalone console, it's a television. This was a standalone PlayStation console not developed by Sony's gaming division. And unfortunately, it really shows, because some of the choices they made design-wise are just strange, like the controller ports being in the back and all sorts of stuff like that. But unfortunately, its biggest flaw is that it's not reliable, like at all. You might think I'm exaggerating, but these things never work. You don't believe me? Go ahead, look it up. Go to eBay, go to any website and be like, I want to find one of those. You'll see them, they're available, but they won't work. The description will always be like, oh yeah, no, it's great condition, it looks great. I mean, it doesn't play games or even boot up, but you know, it looks good. That'll happen a lot. They never boot. So yeah, they were just unfortunately really built very poorly, because what they really are DVRs. At the height of when TiVo was at its success, Sony thought, hey, we could do that. We could get in on that market, have our own TiVo-like thing that people could buy and connect to their TVs and record their shows. But ours will be cool because it'll have a PS2 built into it. So then it'll also have music CD support, it'll have DVD movie support, it'll have PS1 and PS2 game support. So in concept, not a bad idea. It's just really a shame they really gave it to the D team to build this thing. Not even the B team, like this is the D team, unfortunately. Conceptually, great idea. Built like a bunch of monkeys put it together. Like I don't understand like why you would build something so badly. But anyway, yes, so basically, that's kind of its entire story. Now, in my case, I got this particular one up in Canada, Toy Rat, which is a great video game store up there. The dude had one in the box and everything. He's like, it doesn't work. I'll just give it to you as a gift. And I was like, dude, awesome, thank you. Display piece. Did my video. That was the end of the story, originally. Fast forward a few years, I started traveling to Japan a lot for various like events and things like that I kept getting invited to, but that gave me time to go wander around. And one of the things I would look at is a great store chain over there called Hard Off. Now, Hard Off is awesome. I know that people laugh at the name, but I've done videos on it. Check it out. It's awesome. You'd love it if you're into like collecting stuff. But it's just Japanese junk stores, basically. They just have tons and tons of Japanese stuff, and it's super cheap. It's fantastic. But these things are always in the junk section. Always. So it makes me sad, not even laugh, it makes me sad when I go online and I see people selling like, oh yes, my rare PSX. Yes, I only want $200 for it. Of course it doesn't work, but you know, I will part with it for a mere $200, given how rare and special it is. When in reality, these things are abundant as hell in Japan, and they're always in junk bins for like 10, 15 bucks tops. Don't buy these online. Just don't do it. But anyway, so I saw them there all the time. I always ignore them because I'm like, I know they're not going to work, and I already have one, and obviously it's a big bulky thing, right? Well, I'm on my last trip there, one of my last trips there, I surprisingly had a lot of space left in one of my suitcases, and I was like, I could actually get one of these, and I'm going to leave in like a day, and I can't think of anything else to do. Maybe I should get one, because the monkey started, you know, it started spinning, you know, running in the wheel up there. You know, not even a hamster. In my brain, it's a monkey that runs a wheel. It doesn't do the drums. It's a monkey running on a wheel. And he's up there, and he's like, what if we got one and then put the guts in another one and like Frankenstein one together so you could have a working unit? But then the problem occurred to me. I was like, but Adam, you're not smart enough to be able to do that. You can't possibly do that. But I know a guy that can. So I contacted my buddy Justin, who runs Power Up Gaming. He's done a lot of great like repairs for me. He does mods, all sorts of awesome stuff. I've done a lot of stuff on his video, or a lot of videos on his stuff. And I contacted him, and it didn't occur to me that it's 3 in the morning back here. So I was like, oh, he's not going to respond. Never mind. And as I'm about to leave, he responds like right away. And I was like, oh, wow, okay. And I told him what I was thinking, and he's like, dude, yes, do it. I'm all for it. So I pick up the spare PSX, and I bring it back to Chicago. And at the time, fortunately for me, Justin actually lived in Chicago. So I met up with him, like, here you go, good luck to you. And he was like, sure thing. And then the pandemic happens. And then he moves to North Carolina. And then just other aspects of life. So I really didn't hear from him about this for like over a year. Because it just was like, who really cares? It's not that important. But eventually he did do it. He got a hold of me. He's like, dude, I finished it up. I'm sending it your way. Awesome. So he sends it off. I showed it to you guys in a video. So here's the final consensus on it. He was able to get it to be able to boot up correctly. He also fixed the CD laser. For those who don't know, the PS2 had 2 lasers in it. One was for CD content, like music CDs or PS1 games, or those blue PS2 discs. And then it had a DVD laser, which was for DVD movies, as well as, frankly, the vast majority of PlayStation 2 games. Unfortunately, he was unable to fix that particular laser, and he tried. But he got everything else running. He even, like, took the hard drive out of the other unit. He was like, your hard drive was dead, but that one wasn't. I was able, like, they're security locked, but I got around that. And he just did, like, a whole bunch of stuff. He's like, this is as good as it's ever going to get. And then he did some additional stuff that we'll talk about in a bit. But yes, now the PSX is alive, and I'm going to show it to you in action as much as we possibly can. So to first do that, I need to take my little portable monitor here and plug it in. I've got this all rigged up, as you can see. So there we go. It's our nice little blue screen. And I want to tell you something before we boot this up entirely, because one of the dumbest design flaws of this thing is if you turn it on and you leave it alone for like a minute, it just shuts off. Unless you do something else first. I'll explain that. It'll make more sense in a minute. But let's go ahead and fire it up, okay? We're just going to do it. So this thing has 4 video output options, right? One of them is composite. We're not using that. It's got S-video. We're not using that. It's got D-terminal. We're using that, which is basically the Japanese version of component. And then the primary thing it has is coaxial, aka RF. And I can see it accessing the hard drive. All the lights are blinking and everything. And that's what you're seeing right there. Now, you can't hear it because I have intentionally prevented your ears from bleeding, but it's right now, it's got a staticky screen. It's going nuts. It looks like RF because what it's trying to do is default to RF because, again, these things were built for DVRs. So what it's looking for is a cable box signal, and it can't find it. So as a result, it just looks terrible. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you this really bizarre trick that I discovered, which is if you go over to here, to video settings, TV settings specifically, and just click on it, it comes to life. I don't know. It's like it switches from that over to D-terminal, and now it won't shut off randomly. If I hadn't done that, within a minute or so, it would just turn off. Why Sony's TV division? Why didn't you ask the gaming division? What were you thinking? Anyway. So yes, now it looks all pretty and nice, and yeah, it's in case it isn't obvious to you guys, this is where the PlayStation 3 like XMB or cross menu bar actually came from, was the PSX. So it's got like a lot of those options you guys are familiar with there on the side, the settings, photo options, music options, video options, and as you can see there, it's got the thing for dubbing because again, there was options to do all sorts of DVR stuff. And then the TV channel sequence, obviously we're not using that, and then the gaming stuff. So there you go. Now, that's all cool. That's all great. But let's actually see what it looks like when you're running something on it. So we're going to take this game. This is a Japanese PS1 game. And in case it isn't obvious to you, yes, unfortunately, this console is in fact region locked, which is really a shame, but not really surprising. So we'll go ahead and load that up. Now, wait for 1 second here to make sure it loads there. But yeah, this is a really cool game. This was one of the hardest games for me to find in Japan because it was like on one of my top lists. Like I really wanted to find this, but I was just not having any luck with it. So let's just wait for it to boot up. There we go. So it shows up again like a PS3 would, and then you confirm it, and it'll go ahead and start running. Loading the game. Please do not turn off the power or restart your PSX DVR. Like, it doesn't refer to itself as even a PlayStation. It considers itself a DVR by default. Also, I have to apologize to you because I can't really see what I'm doing because I have to, like, lean over. But you guys get to see all the prettiness. But yeah, this is the picture quality on the PS1 games, by the way, fantastic. They look amazing. Through the D-terminal section, I got it hooked up with the RetroTink 5X over here, which I did a video on as well. They look great. But yeah, it's like, hey, this is like the ultimate Japanese PS1. I'll tell you that. Well, maybe a PS3 would do it better. But if you wanted to use like not emulation, this would be the way. But yeah, I'm just showing you a sample of it. In case that font looks familiar to you at all, this is a game that is actually the spiritual sequel to Gunstar Heroes for the Sega Genesis. It was actually a PS1 exclusive called Gunner's Heaven. A buddy of mine named Kyle actually introduced me to this game, and then I was like looking all around for Japan for it. And I found it a few times, but only for like prices I wasn't willing to pay. It wasn't until I found it in this one random store that was like, oh, sweet, that's like half of what it cost. But yeah, just I'm going to be terrible because I can't really see what I'm doing. But you get it. It's like a run and gun thing. Again, like Gunstar Heroes. So if you like Gunstar Heroes, this is the sequel you've potentially never played. And I'm going to die because I can't even tell what I'm doing. But you get the idea. So runs PS1 games just fine. So let's take the disc out. I do not like that disc loader. It like feels like it's going to shoot the disc into the next room. But anyway, so that's that. So let's go ahead and reboot the console here. And I think it's firing up. It's hard to tell from this angle. Yep, okay, there we go. All right, so it'll boot back up, and then I'll show you the next thing. One of the other strange things about this, so you know, it's booting up there, and it gets to that like staticky screen, and it's got this hard drive access light thing going on because it's trying to do the DVR thing, and it will shut off, like I said. One of the dumbest things about this is you see it's on the screen. No amount of pressing the controller will make it do anything. It has to get through this sequence. And you can watch the hard drive access light to know when it's over, or just keep pressing it until it reacts. But yeah, it's one of the weirdest design choices. So as soon as as soon as the hard drive access light just gives up, and then you go back over here, and then this console comes to life, right? So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna test a PlayStation 2 game. Now, I'm just gonna put in the game so I can give it a second to load while we talk about it. Yep, all right, and there you go. The PS2 game we're going to run here, like I said, it can only read those blue bottom discs. And again, the console is not region-free, which limits my options because I can only use the actual Japanese PS2 games that I have. And frankly, most PS2 games were built on DVD discs. This was one of the only ones I could find that I had that actually ran off a blue disc. This is called the McDonald's Happy Disc. I don't know what this is. I kind of know, but let me go ahead and show it to you. I just don't know the circumstances of how it was released, but there, it's loaded up, and you can see it there. So we'll start it up, and then we'll see McDonald's Happy Disc. Trust me, this is unlike Gunner's Heaven, which is a great sequel to a great Sega Genesis game, Gunstar Heroes. McDonald's Happy Disc is not the great hidden sequel to another great Genesis game, McDonald's Treasure Land Adventure. It is not, unfortunately, that scenario. This is, well, all right. What it is a demo disc for Ape Escape and like Parappa the Rapper 2. A little disappointing. I know. Sorry. But it's not like my Japanese blue PS2 disc collection is particularly extensive. So my point is I just wanted to show it in action so you guys can kind of get a sense of, hey, yeah, it does work. How cool is that? It just, there, see McDonald's. I told you, I wasn't lying. It's McDonald's. Get past, it's loading the McDonald's. There's the quote for the video, by the way. But yeah, McDonald's Happy Disc. I looked, well, you can disc is in English, but happy is in Japanese. But there's Ronald McDonald and basically telling you, like, pick your demo, and whatever, who cares. But, yeah, there's really nothing to this. I don't even know what to click on. But the point is, yeah, you can see that it does, in fact, read PS2 discs, sort of. Yeah, well, let's see if we can get it to do anything more creative than this. Hang on, we'll click on whatever that is. Loading. Yeah, you can't do something. I don't know. You can't read Japanese, obviously. You know what? I think you get it. It works. So let's just forget all this. Let's go ahead and I'll take the disc out and we'll reboot the console here again. Actually, we're going to turn the console off because I have a reason. Okay. Okay, so the problem with this was pretty obvious. It was like, okay, it's really good for PS1 games. It'll play like a comically small number of PS2 discs that I own. That's unfortunate. And Justin felt bad that he wasn't able to fix it. So he came up with the next best solution. He came up with this. This is a memory card, but no ordinary memory card. This contains software called Free Mcboot, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know what it is. But if you don't, here's the elevator pitch. And shame on you, because I did a video on this years ago, and how could you not remember a video that I did 8 years ago? Like, come on, you know, whatever. But anyway, so what this is a memory card that contains exploit software. When Sony was making the PlayStation 2, even back when they released it in 2000 in Japan, the original plan was we want to have the ability to add firmware updates to it. I'm going to turn the screen off so it's less annoying. We want to be able to add firmware updates to it. But you couldn't do that back then through the way we do it now, where you download an update or whatever, for a multitude of reasons. Internet not being really ready for it, and also the system not really having the onboard memory for such a thing. So what to do? They came up with a pretty neat idea, which was, what do we have that does have memory? The memory cards. How do we data deliver? Demo discs. And so what they did is they actually did release a couple of demo discs over time that had some update files on those discs, and they would send that data to the memory card, and as long as the memory card was in the console, the update data would be there. I remember doing that once as a kid. There was some demo disc that had an update for the DVD drive where the movie playback was somehow different. I guess they updated the software in some capacity, but that's all it really did. And as long as the memory card was in there, the DVD drive would be up to date. But as soon as you took it out, it went back to the stock factory settings, which made sense. There was nowhere to save it, right? So hackers, not surprisingly, figured this out, and they're like, let's create our own software so that the console always goes to that. And that's how Free Mcboot was born. Now, Free Mcboot was really developed for like normal PlayStation 2s. It was not built for the PSX. Yet, people figured out that you can totally make that work. And so that's exactly what they did. This is a somewhat surprisingly customized version of this, and it's also something Justin did. So let's fire it up. And in the fire up process, you'll notice I'm gonna have to hold down the square button because for whatever reason, I probably should connect the monitor again. For whatever reason, the PSX cannot default to Free Mcboot. You have to hold down either the X button or the square button. In my case, it happens to be the square button. Normally, apparently, it would be the PSX, but there's some hacking that goes into that process that Justin did, and you may not even have noticed, but he subtly did something already, which is he hacked the cross menu bar. That thing at the beginning that we were cycling around in is supposed to be in Japanese. He hacked it into English, so yay, and thanks to the community for even having that possibility. But all right, now that it's in Free Mcboot, you'll notice this. This looks very primitive because this is not the normal Free Mcboot boot up screen where it's like the PS2 mode but like enhanced. This has comically limited options. This is more like, well, this is not really the right thing to say, but this is like the DOS equivalency. Like, it's very primitive. So, but what you're seeing here is you got a few different options, and the thing we care about is the file browser. Now from there, it shows all the different data options, meaning the memory card slots, the disk drive, the memory stick options, the USB port, and the internal hard drive. And before you ask, the internal hard drive is a nightmare, so we'll get back to that, but I swear I'll address it. But what you're looking for in this case is the memory card. So we click on that, and in there's a whole bunch of customized stuff. Specifically, we want the boot drive, and then we want to go to open the open loader. That's what we care about. Now, he put on like 3 different apps for the PlayStation 2 for Free Mcboot, and only this one would work. Nothing else would. Although in this case, the console just shut off for no reason. Told you, these things are not built well. So give me a second while we try again. But yeah, like I said, man, these things, they're just built like junk. Like, I don't even know how else to say it. But yeah, they're not nice. But yeah, try it again. We'll hold down square, wait for it to boot up. See, there it goes, Free Mcboot. I'm telling you, dude, they're not built well. You literally just saw it fail on camera. But anyway, so here we go. File browser, go to Free Mcboot. Where is it? Loading hard drive modules. No, we don't want that. It's hard to see from this angle. Okay, go there, go to apps, go down to open loader, and we want to confirm that. Sorry, just want to make sure we didn't click anything wrong. But yeah, it'll eventually get in there, hopefully. And there you go, there's OPL. Now OPL has a ton of different menu options. You can change resolutions and all sorts of settings. I've already kind of pre-done all that. And that software is actually pretty nice. It can save those settings to the memory card so you don't have to keep redoing stuff. Fantastic. But the reason I'm bringing all of this up is this was the only other option to be able to play any other sort of games. And now you've probably noticed this giant USB thumbstick sticking out of the front of it this whole time that I have not acknowledged. There's a reason for it. Because the disk drive is not necessarily functional and because it's region locked, the only alternative is to put digital versions of the games onto that drive. And because of the Free Mcboot memory card exploit, you can then access that drive and then therefore play those games. So in this case, for testing purposes, I took Twisted Metal Black, I own the game, I just ripped it to a computer. Like, dude, this is comically easy. Like, anyone can do this. Just take this, stick it into a computer with like a Windows-based PC with any sort of DVD drive, use free software called Image Burn, rip it to whatever you want, in this case, twistedmetalblack.iso, make sure it's .iso. You take that file, you throw it onto the thumb drive there, which is FAT32 formatted, that's important. That's it. Plug it in. And there you go, now it'll recognize that. So we can go over here and you can see all these different options for potential loading, but you can see Twisted Metal Black is sitting there. Now, here's the thing before we boot this up, and I'm sure a lot of people in the PlayStation community already know this. This is not new. The idea of being able to take a PlayStation 2 and have USB loaders for hard drives and things like that has been around for quite some time. The problem is PlayStation 2s use USB 1.1, which was really never meant for anything like this. The data rates are just comically bad. In fact, typically you'll get better loading off of a disc, which is not really how this type of thing should work, but it is. In fact, apparently there are some really late PS2s that support USB 2.0, but they're like gold. Like, you just don't see those because of how uncommon they are. PSX, unfortunately, in the USB 1.1 camp, it just doesn't have that capability. But nevertheless, it will actually load stuff. So let's go ahead and click on it. In this case, we just go ahead and press run. I tinkered with resolution options and stuff like that in there, but honestly, it didn't look great. So once you're in, you're basically just kind of in the game as you normally would be. And you might be thinking, okay, so the load screens take a little longer, but that seems like a small price to pay for the games to just run, considering all the games you might have access to at that point. And you would be right, except they kind of chug. And when I say chug, I don't mean just the load screens. I mean like actual gameplay sometimes. So like this game, Twisted Metal Black, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see the screen. I can't really see it from the angle I'm looking at it at. But for the most part, it seems like it's totally fine, right? Like you get the intro. You're also not hearing it, by the way, which is key. So it'll look fine. You'll see this opening screen. Everything runs relatively smooth. It seems like totally fine. And it basically is. So we'll just run story mode. We'll pick, well, let's go with Sweet Tooth because, you know, come on, it's his game. There he is. Click on him. Now he's got his cutscene. The cutscene is kind of where you'll really notice this type of thing. So the cutscenes, I don't know exactly how all the games were divided up, but the cutscenes are kind of loading, I guess, on the fly to an extent, and you'll be able to tell because the audio will get choppy and the video sequence will get choppy at random. Whereas if you're in the actual games, the gameplay itself, provided it preloads all of its data, will typically work very well. The problem is if you have a game with some sort of persistent loading or something like that, that might render the game basically unplayable. What I'm trying to say is it's not just that it loads slow, it's that it creates new bugs and new issues because of how slowly it loads. Does that make more sense? Probably a simpler way to put all that. But yes, it does fundamentally work if you want to actually do it this way. But you know, the thing is, I mean, it looks good as for, you know, all intents and purposes. But like I said, here's your loading screen, and it's actually loading gameplay, or it will in a second. And the gameplay itself, actually, at least in this particular case, was fine. But I mean, I imagine you would run into different unintended issues in other places. Yeah, it's still loading. But yeah. Yeah, okay, there you go. And now I can, well, I can't really see what the hell I'm doing, but yes, the game is on. I can't see at all what I'm doing, but I'll let the gameplay run for a second. But yes, so there you go. That's how you can do stuff off of the USB loader. Now, I told you I'd bring up the hard drive, and we'll kind of go out with this. The game's alive! But yes, there is an internal hard drive in these things. However, they are notoriously built bad. Like, I mean, in a device where everything was built bad, the hard drive was built really bad. Like, it's the bad of the bad. I mean, so, like, he told me he had to take one out of the previous model, and he had to, like, digitally unlock it because they're tied to each unit. Like, he had to do a lot of work to get this to work, to function. And even so, he's like, I would not really mess with that hard drive unless you absolutely have to. So it is technically possible to try and get games to run directly off the hard drive, but the limited amount of software on here makes it not really possible to rip it because he put on like 3 pieces of software and only OpenPL would even run. Everything else just crashes. And that you could potentially send them over digitally through networking, but everything I read online was like, even if you get past all those barriers that are stopping you from doing that, don't do it. the hard drives are built really bad. So basically the goal is to use the hard drive as little as possible because the thing will not even boot up without it. So really the only time it ever tries to access it is in that initial screen where it's all staticky and stuff. After that, it doesn't ever really need it, and you kind of want to keep it that way. So if you're going to play the PlayStation 2 on this thing, frankly, your USB loading, unless you actually have one with both lasers actually working, and a surprise, you don't. Unless you have that, USB loading is your way to go. It's just unfortunate that it's not really all that well done. I mean, it functions as well as it can. All I'm trying to say is, if you're the guy out there who's like super into the PlayStation, you want like all the consoles, whatever, and you've always had your eye on this one, understand, going into it, it's not going to work. It's purely a display piece. It's totally a novelty. And don't pay much for it. Just don't. Like, I'm telling you, these things are in junk bins all the time over in Japan for like 10, 15 bucks. I get it. You don't live in Japan. I get it. Shipping's a thing. I get all of that. But I'm telling you, man, they're not. I even have a somewhat working one, and I still don't really think it's worth the money. It's just, if it completely worked and I could trust it, that would be a different story. But the part of the reason I'm doing this video at all is just because I guarantee this thing is gonna die. Like, probably not that long from now. Like, I just don't. And you even kind of saw it fail on camera. You know what I'm saying? And this has nothing to do with Justin's work. He is like God tier when it came to getting this thing to run as well as it did. It's just these things were built so badly on so many different levels, it's just kind of impossible to believe that there isn't going to be a problem with it. So I don't know the next time I'm going to use it. Honestly, I just wanted you guys to see it. So congratulations. You got to see this. You were also the only people in the world to ever look at the McDonald's Happy Disc release. So tell your mom. I'm sure she'll think that's really cool. Actually, you know what? Go to a bar and pick up a girl by telling her you saw a guy on YouTube play with a Japanese PSX and he ran McDonald's Happy Disc. You know, they'll think that is awesome. Trust me, that'll work. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Thank you to Justin. If you want anything that's like, well, frankly, less complicated than this to actually work and you want upgraded, check out Justin's stuff. I'll put a link to it in the description. He does local pickups if you're in North Carolina, but you can also ship him stuff and whatever. But anyway, I also appreciate it if you guys follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the Discord. I've got a merchandise mart now, all that sort of stuff. Patreon's always appreciated. Hit the join button, like, comment, subscribe. All that generic YouTube stuff that one is required to say. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all later.